Middle English developed out of Late Old English in Norman England. It was spoken throughout the Plantagenet era from 1154 until 1485. The Middle English period ended around 1470. Written Middle English displayed a wide variety of scribal forms, different ways of writing. The diversity suggested the gradual end of the role of Wessex as a focal point of trendsetters for writers and scribes. The emergence of more distinct local scribal styles and written dialects as Northumbria, East Anglia, and London successively emerged as major centres of English literature, each with their own particular interests. Middle English literature on the 12th and 13th centuries is comparatively rare, as written communication was usually in Anglo-Norman or in medieval Latin. Middle English became much more important as a literary language during the 14th century. Generally, all letters in Middle English words were pronounced. The silent letters in modern English generally come from pronunciation shifts. Therefore, night was pronounced knicht, with a pronounced K, and the GH sounded as a CH, not night as in modern English.
Nouns. Middle English retains only two distinct noun ending patterns from the more complex system of inflection in Old English. The early modern English words angel and name demonstrate two patterns. Some nouns of the angel type have an E in nominative / accusative singular, like the weak declination, but otherwise strong endings. The strong ES plural form has survived into modern English. The weak EN form is now rare in standard language, used only in oxen, children, brethren. Verbs. As a general rule, the first person singular of verbs in the present tense ends in E. Ich hear, I hear. The second person in est, thou speakest. And the third person in eth, he cometh, he comes. Plural forms vary strongly by dialect, with southern dialects preserved in the Old English, the Midland dialects showing N from about 1200 onward, and northern forms using es in the third person singular as well as the plural. In the past tense, weak verbs are formed by adding an ed, de, or t ending. These without personal endings also form past participles, together with past participle prefixes derived from Old English e and y. Pronouns. Post-conquest English retained Old English pronouns, with the exception of the third person plural, which was a borrowing from Old Norse. The original Old English form clashed with the third person singular and was eventually dropped. It was not uncommon in England during the medieval periods for animals to be put on trial for their crimes. Animals could be sentenced to death if found guilty of their crimes. Take that, Peter. The Middle English term peag referred to as a type of clay. In Middle Ages, people would often keep coins in jars or pots made of peag. They were called peag jars. By the 18th century, with the evolution of language, these became known as piggy banks or pig bank.
The rotating red and white barber's pole symbolises blood and bandages, as most barbers also performed the roles of surgeons and dentists in their towns. Bandages stained with blood would be washed and hung from a pole outside the barber shop. These would then twist in the wind to form a spiral pattern we are all familiar with today. Prior to the introduction of surnames in England in 1066, everyone born had just one name. When surnames were introduced, they were often included a nickname, such as Robert Red, symbolic of his hair colour. If Robert went bald over time, this name could change to Robert Ball, ball meaning bald in Middle English. In time, the system would evolve to a point where people would take the same name as their father, giving us the modern-day surname system.
We need to do outtakes for this.
What?
Omulum. Insert that!